start when
Hi, Alyssa. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's good to see you again. So if you recall from last time, your homework was to take some of these career assessments to identify maybe some potentially rewarding careers. So I just wanted to check in with you. What was that experience like taking these assessments?
I found it very interesting to take these assessments. I felt like some of the questions were very repetitive, but they really made me think about who I am, what I want to do, and kind of what I want out of my life looking forward, and kind of really working towards that rewarding career. So I am really looking forward to discussing the results. So hopefully we can find that job for me.
Yeah. Did you have any questions that came up as you were taking them that I could answer for you?
I really didn't, but if anything comes up, I will definitely let you know.
Okay, well, we can dive right in and start looking at some of these results.
Okay.
So the first one is the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and you score it as an ISFJ. It stands for introverted, sensing, feeling, and judging, and I'll kind of break that down for you. So people who score high in introversion, they show a tendency to direct their energy inwards and to have a focus on their inner world. And they really get energy from reflecting on ideas and experience. Um, Sensing is where you also score high. People who have a preference for sensing, um, they prefer taking in information kind of based on their five senses, concrete, tangible, like real information. Feeling, the F. This is refers to how you make decisions, and the people who score high in feeling prefer making decisions in accordance with their personal values or their social values that feel in harmony with who they are as a person or their primary goals. And then lastly, judging. Um, uh, this kind of refers to how you take on the world. And people who score high in judging, they prefer kind of taking on an organized, planned approach to the world, um, making decisions in a deliberate fashion. Does all that make sense so far?
So far, yes.
Okay. So kind of in conjunction, people who have this personality type, the ISFJ, they tend to be dependable, considerate, very diligent in carrying out tasks and responsibility. They tend to focus on the needs and wants of others. They prefer orderly procedures and to ensure that they're really doing their best at tasks and that not only are their needs met, but the needs of others or the coworkers, for instance, are being met too. They tend to make decisions based on their personal values and really value cooperation and harmony. So hearing that, I know that was kind of a lot to take in all at once. How's that resonate with you? Do you feel like that fits?
I do. I am definitely a very introverted person. I do better in one-on-one or small group settings. When you put me into like a big room with people, I typically drift towards the side.
Mhm.
And even in those one-on-one situations, I do typically find that it takes me a while to open up. And then once I get to know the person, then I'll be a little more open with them, but generally a very introverted person. Um, as for looking on my other parts of it with the S and stuff like that, I'm a very type A kind of person. I like structure. I'm very organized and like things a certain way. Um, so little interesting hearing all of that, especially when it says like I depend on like my values and stuff to make decisions because I am one who does like to look at all of the facts too. So I like to see what's all present there. So that was a little interesting to me, but at
Yeah,
the same time, I can see that being prevalent in definitely some of the decisions I have made and probably will make in the future as well.
definitely. Yeah. So that introverted really felt like it hit home as well as the sensing.
Mhm.
Great. So there's some careers that came up kind of based on these results. One being a social worker, teacher assistant, psychiatric technician. Um, what's it like hearing some of these as career options?
Well, as someone who is currently in the field of teaching, hearing teaching assistant is not too crazy,
Not too
honestly.
far-fetched.
Yes, not too far-fetched at all. I actually started off as a teacher's assistant before having my own classroom. Hearing social worker, that's definitely not something too far off from what I would be wanting to do. I really like working to help people and make sure that they have everything they need to be successful and help them live a fulfilled life. So I could definitely see social worker being something I would dabble in.
Okay, it's good to keep in mind. So we can move on next to the Kudu career interest inventory. And this is based on six personality kind of variables: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. And I'll break it down based on how you scored. I know that was a lot at once. So you scored highest on social, and people who score high in social have a strong preference for occupations that include activities centered around working with others, developing and growing human relationships, teaching and guiding other people, and solving problems through collaboration. Um, does that sound like you?
I think that's right on the money, to be honest. I feel like
Okay.
as someone who is a teacher now and someone who's looking to go now into a new career that's helping people, I think that sounds pretty spot on.
Okay. Your next highest was enterprising, and this suggests an interest in organizational goals and, activities aimed at kind of achieving economic gain, leadership skills, entrepreneurial skills, problem solving skills, or other big areas that kind of show up around this enterprising variable. That makes me think a little bit about what you were just saying with sensing with your Myers-Briggs. How do you feel hearing this?
Knowing that this one kind of focuses on those very structured decisions and stuff. And I would never say I'm really one out for the money because I know some of the careers I've chosen are not the highest paying, but I do feel like I am one who really enjoys like problem solving and stuff. So I feel like this one also fits me pretty well.
Okay. And then next, you scored high on investigative. So people who score high on investigative have a curiosity for thinking and gathering information, investigation of physical, biological, cultural, or other scientific information. They might have an interest in mathematics, detailed analysis, science, research, things along those lines. Does that sound like you?
It does. Math and science are definitely my favorite subjects in school.
Really?
And again, I like looking at all the options and kind of collecting that data. So I feel like that fits me pretty well too.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, so far it's feeling like a fairly close fit.
Mhm.
Um, so some of the career options that came up with this inventory was post-secondary education teacher, marriage and family therapist, or substance abuse counselor.
Honestly, hearing that's not too surprising. I feel like being a teacher now, that first one seems almost like a given. But the second one, honestly, being within like working with relationships and stuff like that sounds quite intriguing, to be honest. It's not something I had really thought about in the past, but kind of hearing that it kind of sparks a level of curiosity within me. So I like that one.
Yeah, what do you think interests you about that?
I think for me, being in the relationships that I've been in the past and knowing the skills and stuff that I have acquired over the years to make my relationships stronger, I feel like that gives me a good lens to help other people. And I also know some relationships of people I know that didn't work out really well. And so I know the toll that takes on people. And as someone who truly enjoys helping people, I feel like relationships are such a strong like influence in our lives. I feel like being able to help mend those for people will create for a stronger lifestyle and life for them in general.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. So your personal experience relationally is kind of informing maybe a decision that this is something that you could see yourself doing career-wise.
Yeah.
Great. So next, just moving on here, we have the Tutor Skills Confidence inventory. And this gives us an idea of what your aptitudes and skills are in the workplace. So again, you scored very highly on social. So like I said before, these are occupations, involving collaboration with others, helping, teaching, human connection being kind of the main theme. So it's interesting that both the skills and interests kind of match there. Um, Next, you scored highly on artistic. So these individuals who score highly in this domain might be comfortable using music, art, drama, language and writing, or other creative skills for problem solving. Um, Kind of one of the key elements being creativity, self-expression, and things along those lines. And then lastly, you scored high on conventional skills. So this suggests the comfortability with following established guidelines or feeling comfortable looking to authority figures for counsel and guidance, um, maybe feeling comfortable with ordering data or clerical tasks, things along those lines. So what's it like hearing these three things is ranking highest among your skill set?
Social to me, that's no surprise at all.
Mhm.
The artistic, that one's a little interesting to me, to be honest.
Yeah,
I have never really considered myself of an artsy kind of person.
okay.
I I do like writing and journaling and stuff like that. So I mean, that's something I do quite often, but I did not get my mom's artistic abilities whatsoever. My artistic abilities are, I mean, if I'm like making like a digital poster here and there, that I could see myself getting into that artistically,
Mhm.
but that conventional, I could definitely see that in me too. Like I like collaborating with my bosses and like really like I do like sometimes seeking that validation, like, okay, like, is what I'm doing going well? What can I do better? And so I can also see that conventional being something that's pretty strong within me, but that artistic definitely surprised me.
Yeah, it's a funny one too. Yeah, the conventional makes me think of what you were talking about earlier with feeling kind of type A,
Mhm.
or even with your sensing type, there being a comfortability with concrete things or order or rules. It kind of makes you feel more comfortable.
Yes,
But
definitely.
yeah, the artistic, that one's an unexpected one. Could
Yes.
you see that showing up in work for you, or using artistic skills in any way in a career?
I could see like if I was working with kids or something, maybe using like a play therapy kind of thing or something like drawing. And because I know the younger the kids, sometimes a lot of their things can be expressed through drawings and stuff like that. So I could see me using that artistic ability like as a therapy type for working with younger kids.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of the extent I see of it now, but who knows what we'll find in the future.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to be creative.
Mhm.
So next you took the career work values inventory, which gives us some idea of what you're really looking for in a career. What are your values that you want to have met? And you scored highest on supervision, suggesting that you might really have a strong desire to have a boss or authority figure who you respect, and who respects you, and who recognizes your value as a worker.
So that definitely sounds very accurate. I have had some experiences in the past where me and my bosses did not get along very well, and that truly
Never fun.
impacted the work environment and how I felt comfortable in that environment. So I definitely feel like having coworkers and superiors who are people I can respect and mutually agree on, or even respectfully disagree on things, I think is definitely something very important to me.
Yeah, it can really make a huge difference in terms of the work experience. Um, and the next value you scored highly on is lifestyle, um, which suggests wanting to have a work-life balance, and with which your work tasks and your work hours required aren't interfering too much with your leisure activities or other areas of your life.
So yeah, I definitely see that one too. I know like there will be times where inevitably work is going to trickle over, but I am very much someone who enjoys like traveling, working out, cooking, and I really want to be able to do those things and not have a whole ton of my work life kind of hovering over me when I'm doing those things.
Yeah. And then finally, workplace was another value, indicating that you want to have a work environment that you feel safe in, that is clean, that is comfortable, uh, ideally free of any danger and just enjoyable to work in.
Yeah. say I've had some work environments that weren't so, they had mold and asbestos issues and stuff like that. So that's something big to me because I want to be able to be healthy. As I said, I like working out and being able to be healthy and in a safe place. I just feel like that's going to be best for me and any clients or students that I have. I think it's just best all around.
Mhm. So looking at some of the careers that you matched with based on these values, some that came up are psychiatrist, industrial organizational psychologist, the clinical nurse specialist. That's what I like hearing those as potential options.
The first one I could definitely see. The second, industrial, like working with that kind of field to me is not exactly something sure I see myself doing. I feel like definitely that first one though would be definitely something I would see myself trying or actually fully pursuing.
And I just want to go back for a moment because I forgot to mention with your skills assessment, the careers. But you actually matched with very similar careers as your interest. And once again, you got a post-secondary education teacher, a marriage and family therapist, a substance use counselor. So I think it's interesting to note that some of these same careers are showing up both with what you're interested in as well as what your skills seem to be.
So I feel like it's almost relieving and kind of like a catch of like fresh air over here, like hearing that marriage counselor and like relationship counselor, that as that's one that sound probably the most interesting among some of the ones that we've discussed today, that's one of the ones that was repeated. So I feel like that's kind of like a nudge in the right direction, being like, you know what, hey, maybe that's something worth looking into a little more.
Yeah, the fact that it keeps showing up is maybe reinforcing that this might be the right path for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In conjunction, what was it like kind of taking in all this information?
Um, I feel like I really have learned that I am a social being, which sometimes sounds a little contradictory to being an introverted person, but
Mhm.
I do feel like you can help people in small places and small like quantities. You don't have to meet a ton of people at the same time. So I feel like that can definitely kind of overlap in some places. And I definitely feel like I have a little bit more direction as to where I want to end up to kind of have that fulfilling position like in a career.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one-on-one relationship can certainly count as social as well. It's still that human connection, right? So, it might be good for us to, start to formulate some SMART goals to kind of keep us on track for where you'd like to be going in your career. Um, do you have any thoughts, just kind of at the outset, having received all this information today?
I mean, right now I'm currently pursuing my master's in counseling, both school and clinical mental health. So I feel like that's my big thing and kind of the end goal of graduating and getting my licensure or like big things that I'm really working on. And then maybe actually honing in on that marriage and like counseling with that and kind of dabbling more in that and learning more about that.
Yeah, those all sound very in line with what we're discussing. So, kind of our first goal is just staying on this educational track
Mhm.
and focusing on graduation for now. Um, and then from there, like you said, the next step might be um, if you do want to pursue marriage and family therapy, acquiring supervision from the state.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, throughout all of this, we can continue to look at your resume, kind of beef up your social and helping relationship skills so they stand out to potential employers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think those are some good goals to keep us on track for where we want to be.
Okay.
All
Awesome.
right. So before we conclude, any questions about anything we discussed today?
Not that I can think of, but again, like if there's something I think of, I'll jot it down and I'll bring it to our next session.
Sounds good to me. All right. Well, I'll see you then, Alyssa.
See ya.